92% of people would rather trust a complete stranger over a company brand online. And that is because brands lie. Brands lie through their marketing. They lie about their employee proposition. They lie about their sales. They lie about the product that they deliver. Brands lie. And I think one of the things that most companies completely overlook is that people buy from people. We've known this for millions and millions of years. It's why our dads used to do business on the golf course, right? Like, people buy from other people. But the problem is today is companies think that actually their customers, their employees, and all of those people they're trying to reach value perfection over reality. That could not be further from the truth. The reason why brands like TripAdvisor exist and why there are peer reviews on platforms like Amazon is because of this reason. 92% of people would rather trust a complete stranger than the company brand. How many of us have scrolled through Amazon for, the one or two negative reviews of the £4.99 light bulb we want to buy just to make sure that it's a legitimate purchase or it's a legitimate brand that we're buying from? And that's because we trust Steve down the road more than we trust Amazon to sell us something that's worthwhile buying. And this is the thing that most brands get wrong. They think that if they put out this perfect marketing strategy, they put out this perfect social media, and they make themselves look like the ultimate, polished, piece of perfection, that people are going to want to buy from them, or that people are going to want to work for them. And the reality is that people don't want to work with you when you look perfect. They actually think it's fake. And so one of the things that I do at Clout is I work with founders and executives to help humanize their brands, to help attract employees, retain great talent, but also to attract new business. Because like I said, people buy from people. And it's very, very hard to attract those people and get them to buy if you're only relying on your company branding strategy. So I'm going to be talking to you today, hopefully is beneficial, about how you can leverage the employees' personal brands within your organization to grow a company branding strategy. Now, going back to 2020, I started building my personal brand a couple of years before that, but actually started my business in 2020. And I was really, really lucky that within about 6 weeks of launching Clout, I was oversubscribed. I had my first couple of clients, and I was just about to start onboarding our first employee. And since then, we've never really had an issue with bringing on new business or new employees because our brand punches way above its weight. And that's not because the Clout brand is so strong. It is. We spend a lot of time and effort and money trying to make it really strong, but it's because the people within my team are so proactive at posting content. Like, we are relentless on LinkedIn. I remember there was a time where my team were posting at least 2 or 3 times a week, and we're getting back there now. And people used to come up to me and be like, oh, wow, your team's growing so much. There's like 50 of you. And actually the reality was there was only like 10 of us. But because we were posting so much and people saw our, pink heads and now our blue heads in their feed. And if you're following me on LinkedIn, you know what I mean by that. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, go and look at my LinkedIn page and you'll understand what I mean. But people were seeing us and going, wow, there's so many employees at Clout. And it's not that there were so many employees at Clout, it's that there were so many employees at Clout posting content. I digress. One of the reasons I want to get to the point of all of this today is so that you can learn some of the tactics that I have built my personal brand and also built my business on and apply them to your own. And so I want to take you through the kind of fundamentals of why you should be using your employees' personal brands to build your company brand, how you can do that, and then ultimately what that execution looks like. So first and foremost, why should you be using your employees' personal brands to build your company brand? Well, I think first and foremost, your employees get 561% more reach than your company brand online, which is significantly more than the 3 effing likes that you're getting on your LinkedIn company posts right now. And I guarantee you those 3 posts are probably from your employees, right? They're not from new potential employees or new potential customers. They're literally from people that your marketing team has sent a link to the post to and said, please, can you like this content? That is not what marketing is. Marketing is about broadening your horizons, not an echo chamber, right? So 561% more reach is what your people get versus your company brand. Content shared by personal brands within a company also get 8 times more engagement than the company brand. Like, again, people buy from people. No one cares about your company page. And particularly when you're looking at platforms like LinkedIn, which is where a lot of people do hiring and a lot of companies are building their employer brands, no one is following a company brand. Everyone follows people. Like, LinkedIn specifically ranks members' content above company updates and sponsored ads. And that is why you never see company content in your feed. You very rarely see sponsored ads because they want to keep it as pure as possible. And that's because they have a huge content problem. There's about 12 billion impressions made every single week in the feed on LinkedIn by only about 3 million users, which means there's a huge supply and demand problem. Everyone wants to look at content, no one's creating it, which is why they constantly are pushing out member content in the feed, because they haven't got enough ability to be able to get people to buy sponsorship from them yet. You think about Instagram, you think about TikTok, the reason why those platforms have been able to monetize, aka get you to pay to boost posts, etc., is because they have the eyeballs, they have the content creation. LinkedIn doesn't have the content creation yet, it just has people looking, okay? So one of the reasons why I think it's really important that people are leveraging LinkedIn specifically, and this isn't about LinkedIn, right? There are multiple channels in which you can use the personal brands within your organization to build on, but I'm talking about LinkedIn specifically in this example. The reason why LinkedIn have not monetized is because they don't have the eyeballs. They have a supply and demand problem, which means that you have a huge fucking opportunity to start creating content, or better yet, get your team to post content to reach people that you otherwise just couldn't access. Marketing used to be all about talking at your audience, talking at your customer, but now it's about influencing them from within. It's why influencers exist, right? People trust people more than brands. There are people on Instagram with millions of followers for no other reason other than they take nice pictures, because people trust those pictures more than they trust those pictures coming from a brand. Why wouldn't you want to capitalize on that trend? Why wouldn't you want to capitalize on the people that are already on payroll within your business to build your company brand? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, but Amelia, they're going to start posting content. They're going to get approached by headhunters and they're going to get recruited to go somewhere else. Yeah, they might. But that says more about your leadership than it says about them posting content. Let me into a little secret. My team get peppered with emails from people. And sure, some of them have left, some of them have stayed. But the reality is, if someone can be poached purely through a message coming inbound to them off the back of them building their personal brand, that says more about the employee-employer relationship you have with that person than it does about them posting content. And also, the time that they're going to be spending at your company, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it might be, and they are proactively getting you that 561% more reach online, you're only going to benefit from that. So I think it's really short-sighted to use the excuse of what if they leave, to not encourage your team to build their personal brands, because ultimately, if they're building their personal brands while they're with you, that's only going to benefit your company reach. So it's really, really important that you do this. And the final kind of piece of all of this puzzle is, right, the ultimate reason why I started building my personal brand and why I think every company should do it is because about 71% of employers struggle to hire talent, right? When was the last time you heard a executive or a founder be like, oh, we found this person, it was so easy? It doesn't happen. It's really, really hard to hire good people. It's also really hard to do new business, right? Really, really difficult. And so when you start humanizing your brand, when you start humanizing the employees and the people and the leaders within your business, you make your brand a lot more attractive to prospective employees. You make your brand also a lot more attractive to prospective customers. We had a client once that won the biggest contract of the year off the back of their Christmas party post. And that is because that company that had seen that Christmas party post, the executive of that company had seen the Christmas party post and gone, I want to work with a business that treats their employees like that. And so there ended up being a conversation that then turned into a contract. I said it at the start, say it again. People buy from people, but more importantly, they buy from people they trust. And when you start building the personal brands of the people within your business, you start building trust at scale. And that is what separates you from everyone else. That's what separates you from your competition. It's what's separating you from the rest of your industry, because while they're all over there copying each other's websites, copying each other's, social media channels and colors and all that shit, they all look the same, they sound the same, they act the same, and the only thing that you can compete on therefore is price. When you do something different, when you lean into the people that are already within your business, when you lean into the personalities in your business and the values and the humanity of your business, you immediately set yourself apart. Companies spend millions and millions of dollars on ads, on marketing, on advertising. Do you know how much I spend? Zilch. Absolutely nothing. And I'm a 100% inbound business that has made millions of dollars off the back of my personal brand and off my team's personal brands that has enabled us all to grow. And that is because we recognize that when you are running a business in today's society, you have to put people at the center of it, because no one cares about faceless logos anymore. No one cares about the white paper that you're producing. They care about the people within your organization and what they had for lunch and whether or not Steve and Janet from finance ever got together. It's why vlogs do so well, right? So leverage the people within your business already, and you will be converting 7 times more frequently than any other channel. And you heard me right? Leads that come through personal brands convert 7 times more frequently. I'll never forget, we worked with this customer once who came to us, and about 5% of his business came from inbound. So like people, filling out forms on a website or phoning in or whatever it might be. And within a year, we got that up to 30% inbound, which meant that his sales team didn't need to grow for them to make significantly more money, because they had so much more business coming inbound into the business. I've got another client that we worked with, and within 30 days of them starting to post content as an executive team, they saw 100% month-on-month increase in their career page visits. So yeah, what if you're not building your personal brand, your competitor will be, and you will be giving money to them. Okay, so if I haven't convinced you already as to why you should be building your personal brand, and more importantly, why you should get your team to build their personal brands, I think you should stop listening right now, because I clearly can't help you and you're deranged and probably are going to be left behind this year, because everyone else is now doing this and realizes it as an opportunity. So bye-bye. But if you are someone that wants to build their personal brand and understands the value that their team can add to your company brand, welcome. You are welcome here. You can come sit at my table. I think it's really important, though, that you understand how you can do this, right? It's all good and well me sitting here spitting stats at you about 8 times more engagement, 7 times more conversions, reshared 24 more times when it's shared through an employee brand versus a company brand. But none of that means jack all if you don't know how to implement this stuff. And so I think there's a real piece around here that you need to take away from this, or forward this to someone in your team who might benefit from this, of understanding how you compare personal branding with company branding and how they complement each other rather than fight each other. I think it's really important that employers recognize that employees with strong personal brands is an opportunity, not a threat. All of the activity that they're getting, all the networks that they're building, all the viral views, if they're getting that, impressions, clicks they're getting on their profile will directly translate into credibility and equity in your brand. So the more you can leverage that and not squash it, the better off you're going to be. So what is personal branding? I've just harped on for a bazillion years about why you should be building your personal brand, and more importantly, why you should be building your employees' personal brands. But I think a lot of people don't know what personal branding is. Personal branding is essentially a reputation, right? It's the ability to control what other people think about you when you're not in the room. And I think it's really important that employers and founders particularly understand that your team's reputation is a direct impact on your company. Your team's reputation and as individuals has a direct impact on whether or not customers want to work with you. And specifically for service-based businesses and B2B, probably across the board, if your team aren't repping you in a really great way, that's going to reflect badly on you and badly on your bottom line. And so when we talk about personal branding, I think there is this ick moment, and I think personal branding, no, we're not doing that for our team, because why on earth would we invest in our team when they're just going to go away and work for someone else? The reality is you're not investing in that individual to benefit them, you're investing in that individual to benefit the reputation of your company. Because if you can build the reputation of that individual as someone who knows what they're talking about, they're credible, they're trustworthy, all those things, you're ultimately only going to rub that off on your company. I'm not going to name them because actually they weren't the best employer ever, but I remember I used to work for this recruiter, and even 2 years after I stopped working for them, people would come up to me and be like, oh, you're Amelia from such and such. And that's because I'd been so proactive at building my personal brand back when I was working for them. People still associated me with that company to their benefit, right? And so even when people leave your company or leave your employment or go on and do other things, if they've built credibility in the space while they've worked for you, that is going to stick with you for a very, very long time. So it's really, really important that you understand that. And I think the second part of all of this is like, personal branding is not an ego-driven activity. It's not about look at me. It's about look what I can do for you. And I think when we talk about personal brands in context of company branding or employer branding, people think, oh, no, we don't do that because that's personal. Like, that's for the individual. No. The personal branding piece makes it sound like it's totally removed from your company and it's something that you shouldn't invest in. The reality is, if you can afford to spend 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 a month with a marketing agency to deliver you very little return on investment, you can spend 5 minutes a day encouraging your team to build their personal brands, because all the traffic that you're going to drive through LinkedIn, through TikTok, through Instagram, etc., is going to come from those individuals. It's not going to come from your company pages. Unless you're smart enough and your marketing team is creative enough to set up like a meme account or create almost like a media company within your own business, it's very unlikely that you're going to have huge numbers of followers on your company page. The only way that you're going to get out there and start influencing people from within the communities that you're trying to attract is by getting in with the people, right? Like, have you ever tried shouting at someone in their face? Of course, they don't listen. They just tune out. But when you have a dialogue with people, when you engage with them and you have a conversation, you're much more likely to influence them. And that is what personal brands does for company brands. It's not ego, it's marketing strategy, guys. People spend so much time and effort and money and dollars and resource on being fucking smart with their marketing strategy, and no one ever considers, oh wait, we have a team of 100 people that have networks of 200 people that we could potentially be selling to. Like, you're sat on a huge opportunity that you're not leveraging, and it's just lazy, to be honest, and it's completely ego driven. If you don't want to leverage your team to build your company brand, then you're really short-sighted, and I feel sorry for you. So how are we going to do this? I think there's a few different things to consider here, right? So when we work with clients, we come at this from a couple of different angles. First and foremost, I think you need to kind of understand what your goal is with all of this. Like, a lot of companies think, oh, we have to do company branding, we have to do social media, but actually they don't really understand what the goal of those things are. For me, marketing is sales and sales is marketing. They are very best friends, and they need to love and kiss each other all the time, because if they don't, then you're not going to get any of your business goals ticked off, right? Marketing is not the jazz up department, guys. It's not. It is a strategic marketing imperative to get that right. Otherwise, you're not going to make the sales that you need to make in order to hit your goals, right? So I think being really clear on what your goal is with branding and social media general is really important to kind of understanding where personal branding slots into that. So for example, if you are going through a hiring drive right now or later or next year or like 10 years, whatever it might be, and you need to get as many people into the top of your funnel as humanly possible, I want you to start thinking about personal branding as your future pipeline. It's like, how can we future pipeline and future proof our talent pool so that when we are ready to pull the trigger on that, we have like a bunch of people we can tap into, right? This is basically what recruiters do. Recruiters accumulate thousands and thousands of candidates so that when you call them up and say, hey, I need to hire a PhD dolphin trainer, they have a series of people that they can just pull on immediately and then plonk into your business because they've been working with those people for a very long time. Personal branding for company brands future-proofs your talent pipeline. It also future-proofs your sales pipeline. There's around, I think it's about, I'm going to really show myself up here. There's a statistic. I think it's 97% of people in your audience aren't ready to buy from you, and there's 3% that are. And that 97% is broken up into like a big chunk, which is people that aren't even interested in speaking to you. Like we've all been there. If you've been in sales, fuck me. Like, I've had the phone slammed down on me a bazillion times. But there's a huge chunk of people in that 97% who aren't even interested in speaking to you. And there's about 12% in that chunk that are aware they have a problem, might want to speak to you, but aren't ready right now. 3% of that 100% are actually buying. The problem is almost everyone targets 3%, right? You get absolutely peppered with sales messages day in, day out. And so what ends up happening is you're competing with people in a very small pond, a very saturated, very small pond, and you're ignoring all of the other people, the majority of people that might be a customer for you one day, but you fail to acknowledge because they're not ready to buy from you yet. And what personal branding does is it creates influence and creates resonance and creates, credibility with the 97% so that when they do get to the 3% buying stage, you're the first company that they come to. And the reason why personal branding does that is because when you have a series of people, even if you've only got a 5-person team, those 5 people have exponentially more reach than your company brand. So if they're pushing out content that's positioning them as credible and reliable and skillful and an expert and all these things, if a company, take mine for example, if someone had been following me for 6 months to 12 months and they weren't ready to build their personal brand yet, and I have a great example of this actually. I had a client that we just signed last week. He's been following me since 2021, right? So 3 years ago. He's been following me since then. He only just became a client. And that is because he's been following me for all this time and he wasn't ready to start building his personal brand yet. He didn't even know if he wanted to, right? And then when he was ready to start building his personal brand, I was the first company he came to and the only company he wanted to work with because he'd been following me for all that time. And I think that is the whole point of this, right? You need to create credibility and resonance with people before they get to that buying stage. And that is ultimately what personal branding does. So next, how does one leverage employee personal brands to build a company brand? Well, first and foremost, you need to think about what is the strategy here? Like, what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to generate sales? Are we trying to build brand awareness? Are we trying to attract talent? Do we want to do all of the above? What is the play here? And those goals should tie into the overall business goals. So if you have a revenue target and you are struggling to get enough leads into the top of your funnel to reach that revenue target, then brand awareness is probably going to be your goal. If you have a growth target this year and leads aren't an issue for you, but like employer branding is an issue for you because nobody wants to work for an unknown company, guys, get with the program, then you might want to be getting your team to post content about the culture and like all that kind of stuff because talent pipelining is more important. What is your goal? Once you've worked out your goal of personal branding for your team, we'll call them employee brands, it then becomes really easy to then centralize that as part of your marketing strategy. So one of the things that we talk about internally at Clout is like personal branding as a strategy. So personal branding has a whole section in our own marketing strategy. So yeah, we've just started doing paid. Woohoo, very exciting. Year 4, never done it before, very excited. Yes, we have paid. Yes, we have a website. Yes, we have our own company social media. Yes, we have all these other marketing channels that we use, but personal branding sits within the distribution channels that the rest of our marketing does as well, because we know that our team distributing content is going to have a significantly higher reach than the other activities that we're doing. And so some of the ways in which we make sure that happens is we say to the guys like, right, can you please post twice a week? Please. And because they work for a personal branding agency and because like I guess they love working here, they're happy to oblige. And so they post 2 times a week. But a couple of the other things that we do to make their life easier is we create a vlog. So once a week we share a vlog, and the vlog is all about the company culture. It's like what we're working on, what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. And it's through that vlog we tell a lot of the Clout story. And it also gives the team at least one piece of content per week that they can share on their own channels without actually having to post anything else if they didn't want to. It also allows us as a company essentially to kind of control the narrative of like what we want to tell the world. And I think this is a really important thing that companies really misunderstand about company branding and employee brands, like personal brands, is you should be empowering your team to share what it's like working for your organization. You shouldn't be scared for them to be honest. But you can put things in place that can empower them without having to shove like a social media policy down their neck. And so like have a freedom within a framework. So one of the things that I do with clients, and definitely do this with Clout, is we talk about values, right? So what are your company values? Like, do you value integrity? Do you value honesty? Do you value champions do extra? One of our core values. But what do you value? And then I think if you can lay that on the line with your team and say, these are our values. If the post doesn't meet these values, don't share it. If the post does meet these values, do share it. That's a way to empower your team to build their personal brands without having to tell them what they can and can't post. Because I think there's a lot of fear for employees around building their own personal brands because they're worried about what their employer is going to think. And if you create an environment where people feel like they need to get their work checked, they're never going to be confident enough to post the content they need to post in order to get the brand awareness for you in the first place. So as part of your strategy, I think you really should be looking at like, what is our social media policy and what is our stance on personal branding? Like, are we really going to go for this, or are we going to be one of those sheep companies that is like post content but actually don't post that content? because if you're one of those, then we can't be friends. So yeah, first of all, you need to really think about what your strategy is. The second thing is, once you've thought about your strategy, and by strategy, I really do mean like, what is the goal of all of this? And therefore, what are the KPIs that we're going to use to measure? What you can then do is start to centralize it. So I mentioned a minute ago, we have a vlog, which is a way of us centralizing our content. Another thing that you can do is you can have your marketing team, and we've done this with companies before, we can have your marketing team create batch content that doesn't sit on the company page, but it does sit on the employee pages. So you could create like literally a content plan where every single person in the company shares the same piece of content every day. So instead of you thinking the only route to distribution is through your company social handles, so for example Clout, we might create a whole content plan for Clout's Instagram. So you could create that, sure, 31 days of content on Clout Instagram, but then you also might want to create another 31 days of content for the employees' pages as well. And so actually what you're doing is creating double the amount of content, but you're also, 10xing, 500xing actually your reach online, because you've got different content that is part of the same content strategy, same content plan going out on multiple different channels at the same time. I think it's not surprising to anyone that if they've ever done the experiment that I always encourage people to do of sharing the same content on their personal page as their company page, how different the reach is. So why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? Why would you spend so much of your marketing resource, budget, time, effort, etc. on just the company pages when all of the bloody activity comes from people, right? I'm not saying company brands are worse than personal brands. Like, they're both really important. And I think it's clear from Clout's brand, we do really value company branding. But if you're going to put all your efforts into company brands, that's really wasted, because you're actually not leveraging the thing that's actually going to get traction on social media. It's called social, for human beings to connect, right? Not brands to connect. No one cares about brands. Brands lie. Brands lie to everyone. I said right at the beginning of this, no one trusts brands. 92% of people will trust a stranger that they've met on the street that they don't know from Adam over a company brand, right? So why on earth would you spend all of your budget and all of your money and all of your time just on your company brand? Centralize it, create a content plan for your company page, then create a humanized, fun, candidly written content plan that can go out on your team's pages and get everyone to share that piece of content every day. And no one will care that your team are sharing the same pieces of content, because guess what? No one has the same followers. And if they do, they really won't give a shit, okay? Trust me on that one. No one cares that you're sharing the same content, but what you will care about is the impact that has on how many impressions your website is getting and how many impressions that your own company page is getting, because you're getting all of that top of the funnel traffic from your team, right? Centralize it. The third thing you can do is we actually have a platform called Get Clout, and like no sales allowed on this podcast usually, but I think it's worth mentioning. We have this platform called Get Clout where basically we build an algorithm for you and it sends content prompts to your team every single day. Now, you don't need to work with us to do this. You could literally do this yourself if you wanted to. Like, all it would take is someone to spend a couple of hours each month to basically write out a list of questions that you would then send to your team. But the beauty of the Get Clout platform is we can say, right, this person's goal is new business. And so all of the prompts that will go through to your team, which is specific to your company, will be about generating new business. And it's not as easy as that, because I think a lot of people go, oh, we need to make more money, so we're just going to put loads of sales posts out. Like, let me just into a little secret. No one likes being sold to. So if you're only putting out sales posts, no one's going to trust you. No one. So what we do with Get Clout is we sell really subtly. So we'll send a prompt to you that says, for example, tell me about a time that you had a really big client win. What did you do? What was the outcome? And it's always from a place of storytelling. It's always from a place of human. It's always from a place of like people to people. It's never from a place of like, we can help you do this. Give me your credit card. Because people don't like being sold to, but everyone wants to buy, right? Everyone's got money burning a hole in their pocket, but no one wants to spend it with you if you're asking for it. So you need to subtly implant the idea that they should be buying from you. And the only way that you can do that without your team really spoiling the narrative around your brand not being salesy is by feeding them these prompts. So you can do it yourself, you can do it with Get Clout. I don't care. But either way, give your team prompts and say, hey, we're doing this, personal branding thing for 3 months, guys. We want to empower you guys to build your personal brands. every month or every day we're going to send you a content prompt. You need to post your reply to that prompt on LinkedIn. That's all we're asking you to do. And the reason we're asking you to do that is because of blah, 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 blah. You could even incentivize it. We have a clout score on our Get Clout platform where people who post more get more points. So you want to be at the top of the leaderboard. So you could even do that if you wanted to. But the impact that will have of everyone in your company posting is going to drive traffic to your website. It's going to increase goal conversions, and ultimately it's going to increase your revenue. So centralize it. The final thing is of all of this, right? So once you've built your strategy, you've kind of centralized your content. If you don't feel like your team are up to posting it themselves, another piece of all of that is you can get like advocacy champions. So you could select maybe like 5 to 10 people within the business that you thought really would be great at this and just invest loads of time and energy into them to getting them to post content. Because normally what happens is people see that their mate went viral and they want a piece of that action too. So sometimes that's a really good way to motivate the rest of your team to start posting content because they want to also be the person that went viral on LinkedIn, even though they'll give the person the stick for it. Once you've done all of that, I want you to optimize it. So a lot of the time, I think companies, normally because they're really under-resourced in marketing, they roll out these huge marketing strategies that are overly complicated. They push loads of social media content out. They do all of the things, but then they don't ever look back at what did well and what didn't. And so with personal branding, what you really should be doing is monitoring what went well and what didn't go well. Like, did someone's post go viral and therefore did that push loads of traffic onto your website? Did a post not go viral but push loads of traffic onto your website? Okay, if so, what were they talking about? And there are lessons there that you should be learning, not just for personal branding, because then you can iterate on the content prompts you're sending people or the content that you're creating or the algorithm that Get Clout has built for you. You can go to our website, www.clout.com. But once you've got all of that information, you can then iterate. But I think there's something in this that people don't realize, the power of knowing what didn't go well and what did go well, and then feeding that back into their company social media and brand strategy. If you're getting on the ground feedback from your team's network, who are likely other potential employees or potential customers, and they're asking questions about things, they're like challenging you on things, they're giving positive, negative comments, that's real-time feedback that you otherwise wouldn't have access to help formulate a better content plan, sure, for your personal brands within the business, but for the company brand overall. If you're not listening and iterating and paying attention to what other people are paying attention to and responding to, how on earth can you build a brand strategy and a social media strategy that's actually going to speak to the ideal audience? I think that is something that loads of people don't get. It's like, sure, post content, great, good for you, well done, claps all round. But if you're not listening to the feedback, if you're not listening to what people are actually responding to, and I don't mean likes, I mean literally what are they saying back to you in the DMs, in the comments, etc., how the F are you going to make sure that you're optimizing next time? There's so much focus on likes and virality and all that kind of shit. And I know I've said it a million times in this podcast because it makes you listen when I say, I'm going to make you go viral. Because everyone has an ego. I don't care what you say. You're sitting there going, I don't have an ego. Yes, you do. That's why you said I don't have an ego. But that stuff doesn't matter if the likes and the virality that you're getting is not with your ideal customer. I could post something tomorrow that would go viral like that, and I know exactly what to say. But it's not going to make me famous with the people that I need to be famous to make money. You understand? I had a big issue. I remember a few years ago, I worked with a couple of recruitment clients. And when I first started working with them, their MD was like, oh, I don't need LinkedIn training because I go viral all the time. And I looked at his post and I was like, yeah, you do go viral all the time. With who? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, with who? I can see from your post you go viral, but like, who are you going viral with? And when we looked into the likes and the engagement, the comments, they were all other recruiters. Not a single one of them was from an ideal customer or potential employee, not one. And his primary goal was to generate new business. So sure, you can go viral, well done, badge of honor, here you go. But it's not gonna make you money, yeah? So you need to look at who is responding to those posts from your both personal brands and company brands, feed that back into your brand strategy, and then push it back out again and see what happens. Optimization is one of the most grossly undervalued things in business, whether that be feedback you get from your team, feedback you have from your child on what broccoli you made last night, feedback from your customers in the, social media or the customer service. That's why everyone records, service calls, right? Remember when you call up like your gas supplier and they're like, this call is being recorded. It's because they want to improve the service in theory. Whether or not they actually do, I don't know. But it's because they want to improve the service. You should be doing the same thing. Look at the comments, look at the DMs, look at what people are saying on your team's pages. Because people will respond to personal brand content. They do not respond to company content. No one cares about company content because brands lie. So who does this well? Who is like, aside from me, who runs a personal branding agency, what is a good example of a company that's done personal branding well? Well, I think Gymshark's actually a really good example. So Brent Francis, who founded Gymshark, has a huge personal brand, right? Massive, millions of followers. Everyone knows him. Well done. You know, one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the world. Great for him. He's got all the resource in the world. If you look at his team, everyone from the head of social media all the way down to the intern post content on LinkedIn specifically. And I believe the reason why they do this is because it's really difficult to find talent at the volume and at the level that they need in the area in which their HQ is based. And so when you've got the entire team posting content about what it's like to work at Gymshark, you're going to naturally attract people into those people's networks who are potentially going to want to work for Gymshark. So I think most employers know that the best employees are referral hires. They're people who've been brought in by, you know, the Steve in accounts, and Steve in accounts is really good. And he's referred his mate, Joe, and Joe is fantastic. She's wonderful. She will normally produce a higher ROI as an employee. She'll stay longer. She's more loyal. She like gets promoted more, all those things through a referral, right? And when you're posting content on LinkedIn, you're essentially creating a referral program, but at scale. So instead of relying on Steve having great friends like Joe, Steve's actually reaching hundreds, if not thousands of people who potentially could also be other Joes. And I think that's why Gymshark do it. And I also think that's why they're so relentless in ensuring that their team are posting about Gymshark. And that's one of the reasons why we created Get Clout. We wanted to create the Gymshark effect. We wanted to create the clout effect for other employers who are struggling to find talent. I also think there's another thing in this, which is such a grossly misunderstood, underrated, undervalued, all the buzzword things point in this, which is, when was the last time you saw a CEO walk through an office? 80% of the workforce today are disengaged. They have no freaking interest in their job. And I genuinely believe that's because of remote work. It's because of shite internal comms. It's because, you know, when was the last time a managing director had a water cooler moment with a junior member of staff? It doesn't happen. And social media and lack of internal comms has just perpetuated that. And so when you have companies like Gymshark or mine or some of our bigger employers that we're working with posting content, you're replicating those moments, but online. I had a client really recently who is a FTSE 250, and we've worked with their executive team for employer branding purposes, right? So we've been posting content from the executive team's LinkedIn to build the personal, to build the employer brand of the company. But one of the amazing byproducts of that work was he had people walking up to him in the office being like, "Oh, I love that post you did on LinkedIn yesterday. Oh, I saw that thing that you posted last week. Like, I thought that was really interesting." And these were people that he'd never had conversations with before. And I think a lot of companies really misunderstand the value that you can have from forming relationships with your employees and the bonds that you can create through posting content online. Because if you can't reach them in the office, if you can't have those coffees with them or those water cooler moments or walk through the office and be like, "Morning, everyone," even if you don't have the capacity to say hi to everyone individually, if you can make that happen online, that's only going to increase workplace satisfaction. It's only going to increase workplace productivity, and it's only going to increase job, engagement, people being engaged at their work. And I think if you can engage people in their work, they just produce such better results. And it's just slept on. Like, there are so many people who don't realize, yeah, remote work's fantastic, but like, what does that mean for the engagement of your team? People need to be around people and feel supported by people and feel heard by people. So if you're posting content on LinkedIn as a CEO, and you're directing that as a leader towards potential employees or towards your existing employees, they're going to feel heard, they're going to feel listened to, and they're going to feel more engaged. And so I think it's a really, really actually amazing byproduct of building your employer brand through personal brands, is that human connection that you otherwise just don't have. So yeah, personal branding for company branding purposes. I think there's a couple of key takeaways I want to leave you with. It's like, one, figure out what this means for your company. So what is the goal? Why are we trying to use people to build the company brand? Is it for new business? Is it for talent? Is it for brand awareness? Like, what is the ultimate? Fast forward 12 months, what would success look like to you if all went well? 2, work out how people work into your marketing strategy in the distribution channels. So if Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, paid and website, your distribution channels, add in personal brands and build out a tactical delivery within that marketing strategy for people. Third, centralize it. Batch create content as another distribution channel within your marketing team. And it might be just a slight iteration of what's already going out on your Instagram, what's already going out on your YouTube, but it's designed to be shared from a personal page, not from a company page. And then the fourth thing is iterate and optimize. So look at what is performing well and optimize and iterate off the back of that. So, look at the comments, do a round robin once a week of like who is commenting on what and what they're saying on your team's posts. And this absolutely can sit with marketing. I think the excuse of like, we don't have time is absolute fucking nonsense. If you're in marketing or your team's in marketing and they don't have time to look at what is performing and what's not performing, they're not in marketing. They're just creating content. And creating content doesn't make you money. Creating content that is optimized to the specific people and the specific goals that you need to make happen is marketing. Marketing is sales, sales is marketing. I said that already. And unless you're looking at what is performing best with the people you're trying to sell to, whether that be employees or customers, you're not actually creating any kind of marketing content whatsoever. So you absolutely need to be looking at what's doing well and what's not. And yeah, incentivize it. If you don't think your team are going to be posting content unless it's incentivized, make a leaderboard, make a social star of the month, give them vouchers, give them, a shout out on a Friday, like celebrate when people do this well. Because if you can get your team to be building their personal brands and you're going to be benefiting from that reach, I promise you're going to have an extra 50 quid a week to be able to incentivize them to want to do it. Because leads that come through personal brands, founder brand, employees' personal brands, convert 7 times more frequently than any other channel. Any other channel. And I can attest to that. I'm 100% inbound. We've only just started doing outreach this year. And that is because we want to grow, right? But up until this point, we've never had to do it because we get so much business inbound. Imagine if you could get like our revenue. Imagine if you could get like $1.5 million inbound every single year. What that would do to your business. It would change it. Completely fucking change the game. So yeah, don't be afraid of building people's personal brands because employees with strong personal brands are not a threat. They are a huge opportunity. And I think the companies that get it, and the ones that don't are going to be the ones that don't actually have any relevance in 2024. I have a couple of questions and you can tell me whether this is a good segment of the podcast or not, but I have a couple of questions that people have sent me on Instagram that they wanted me to answer. So I figured, why not on my own podcast, answer these questions and give you as much value as humanly possible. So without further ado, how do you manage with your kids, business, and posting so much content? Okay, so I get it, right? I post about 150 pieces of content a month. So it's like 7 times a week on multiple channels. I also have 2 pieces of long form content going out on YouTube every week. I have a newsletter that goes out every single week. It's a whole thing. Also having 2 children is like slightly feral, as anyone can relate to if you're a parent. Single mum as well. Shout out to all my single parents. But the way that I like make it all work, and I think this is something that everyone should bear in mind, because if I can do it, baby, you can do it, trust me, is you just have to have a system. And so my system is I create a podcast. From my podcast, we chop up micro content. So micro pieces of video content. So this answer I'm giving you right now is probably going to be turned into a micro piece of content. It's going to be distributed on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, but it's come from my podcast branded, right? That means that I've only had to spend the hour so time here recording this podcast, and then that gets turned into lots of different pieces of content that then can then be distributed. It's an hour of my week, right? Which is fabulous. There are other things you can do. Like if you do record a podcast like this and you are, chopping it up into micro, you can then transcribe that micro video content and turn it into LinkedIn posts. Or you could transcribe it and turn it into a Twitter thread, and then you could screenshot that thread and share it on LinkedIn. Like there's multiple ways in which you can make sure that the content that you are creating stretches. But I think the thing is you just have to have a system. And there are so many people out there who'll be like, post more content, post more content, post more content. And I'm one of those people, right? Like I think that personal branding is 10% content and 90% consistency in posting it. But unless you have a system to create that content, it's near damn impossible to make sure it does go out consistently. So have a system. And if you want to know what my system looks like, sign up to my newsletter because I share that in my newsletter all the time. Okay, next question. Okay, so I have been sharing content for 2.5 months and I feel like I keep saying the same thing twice. Where can I get original ideas? Okay, baby, let me into something, right? I've been posting the same shit for 6 damn years. 6 years. Same shit. I literally say the same shit all the time. Failure is great. Build your personal brand. Be accountable for your own life. Be 100% okay with the consequences of who you are. Like literally the 4 things that I talk about total, right? Nothing else. I've been saying the same shit for 6 years. Remember that your content doesn't need to be new or original to be valuable, guys. Stephen Bartlett is a multi-millionaire with millions of people downloading his podcast every single week off the back of interviewing interesting people. He's not creating shit, but he's really, really good at taking what other people have said and what other people are doing and turning it into his own feed, right? That is a fucking wonderful skill. But nothing that he's doing is original. And yet here he is, one of the strongest personal brands in the UK. You do not have to be original to be valuable. You could be a research expert. Take loads of information from other places and share them on your channel. I saw this today, isn't it interesting? Or do what I do and just say the same shit over and over and over again. No one's going to say, excuse me, you've said that before, because they're following you for a fucking reason. People want to be famous if you're building a personal brand with the people that you need to be famous to. How on earth can you be famous if you don't have anything to be famous for? You need to pick the thing that you want to be famous for and talk about it the same, over and over and over and over again, and be relentless in that pursuit, because otherwise you have legit no reason why anyone would follow you, okay? Keep going. What is the best social media platform? Okay. I feel like I've had this rant before. There is no best social media platform. There is only the best platform for the people you're trying to reach. So instead of following all these people going, TikTok's the best, shorts are the best, just ask the actual people that you're trying to reach where they spend their time. It might surprise you. They might go, actually, we prefer Reddit, or we actually spend all of our time on Pinterest, in which case you should be building your personal brand on that channel. I think when you start building your personal brand, it's really easy to get distracted by like the shiny object syndrome of like, oh, I need to be everywhere, or this guru said that I need to be on this platform, so I need to be on that. And actually, you just need to be very, very simply in the right place at the right time. So if the people that you're trying to attract are on LinkedIn, be on LinkedIn. If they're on Twitter, be on Twitter. If they are on Reddit, be on Reddit. But don't try and be everything to everyone. And certainly don't try and build your personal brand on a platform where no one that you're trying to build it with is actually going to spend any time, because it'll be a total waste of your time, my love. Okay. What the hell do I post about on LinkedIn? Okay. I think this is more of a strategy question than anything. If you're trying to build your personal brand on LinkedIn or on any platform, to be honest, you need to start with a few things. One, what is your goal? Fast forward 12 months, what would success look like? Is it that you want to be known for something in your space? Is it that you want speaking gigs? You want to be paid? Like, what are all the things? Brand awareness, leads, all the things. What is that goal? What is that goal? The second thing is, who do you need to attract to make that goal happen? Third thing is, what do you need to say to attract those people? And the fourth thing is, where do you need to say it to make sure those people actually hear you? So it's 4-part strategy, really, really easy. What is your goal? Who do you need to attract? What do you need to say to attract them? And where do you need to say it? Very, very simply, that should get you going, and it'll make it really easy for you to start posting content, because if you can identify what your target audience actually wants to know about, then all you do is just talk about it. Like this. You guys have left me messages and I'm now answering them. You're my target audience. Bosh. What is your favorite platform? At the minute, I'm obsessed with Instagram, which is fun. I'm such a millennial. I love Instagram. Instagram is a vibe. It is like, half sassy, trolly, nasty people who've got no profile picture and are user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which I enjoy. And then 50% people who are just like hype queens and hype kings and monarchs and, emperors. And I really like that. I really like that you can have a bunch of people that you've never met before be like, hey, I've just come across your reel and I love it. And yeah, I'm just loving Instagram now. Also, TikTok's great. And I do like TikTok, but I'm just like really obsessive with stuff. And I just find that when I'm on TikTok, I spend hours on it. And that's just not the life I want to live, honey. Like, I want to be a queen who is not spending hours of her time scrolling through mindless cat videos on TikTok. I want to be, living my best life out in the world. And I feel like Instagram's good for me because I dip and I dip out. Whereas TikTok, I'm like, I'm in and then I'm locked in. And it's basically like tragic. Next. How do I convince my CEO to build their personal brand? Okay. I'm just going to hit you with some stats, King. And then you can feed this back to your CEO, or just send him this video. Okay, so brand messages are reshared 24 times more when their same message is shared on an employee's feed than a company brand, right? 24 times more. In personal brands get 561% more reach. They get 8 times more engagement. They convert leads 7 times more frequently. If you're not spending any time investing in your building your personal brand and you're a founder or an executive of a company, but you've got $5,000 odd a month to spend with a marketing agency that's getting you no leads, you need your head checked. You literally need your head checked, because you are leaving money on the table. You are legit leaving cash on the table for your competitor. And that is just not a vibe. So yeah, founder brands. Your face is so much more interesting than a logo. Your story is so much more inspiring than a fucking tagline. Who the fuck cares about a company tagline? I care about your story. So yeah. Okay, so how can I get my first speaking gig? I've been posting on LinkedIn for 2.5 years and I get asked to do webinars all the time, but I'm ready to take the step to go live. Okay, so I think about speaking as like the next iteration of your personal brand, right? So if you've built this following on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever it might be, and people are interested in what you have to say, the next level up from that is actually meeting people in person. And this, I suppose, is kind of halfway between. Like, one of the reasons why I love doing podcasts so much is because I feel like I can connect with you at scale. Like, we can have a connection, we can have a relationship one-on-one, without me having to like be physically in your space. Because when you're looking at this video, I'm literally about a foot away from your face, right? Because you're looking at me on your phone, probably. And so that's why I like doing video so much. But like the next level up from that is on a stage. And although you can't speak to hundreds of thousands of people at the same time, unless you're like Dele Alli or something on a football pitch, you can speak to a select few people. And it's the connections that you make when you're on stage in person that are like so deep and so intimate, and you just can't replicate that online. And so I think doing speaking gigs is a really amazing next kind of level up. You're going to like get promoted into the Premier League of personal branding when you do speaking gigs, because you create that resonance and that connection with people that you just can't do online. And so that's why it was so important for me to do it. So for me, I kind of see this in 3 stages. The first stage of like getting paid to do speaking gigs is you need to be on as many podcasts, webinars, panels as humanly possible. So I just hoard myself out like every fucking where for the first year. I was like, whoever will have me, just take me. Like, I don't care where I need to be. Like, a podcast with 1 download, don't give a shit. Have me, no problem. And I basically built up a show reel of me being interviewed, me being hopefully like slightly more articulate than I've been today, and just having that back and forth with people to show that I could do that. And so when the next phase came, which was going on like tier 2, tier 3 podcasts, so like with bigger audiences and bigger reach, like Secret Leaders, for example, has like, it's the biggest business podcast in the UK. When I was on that, I got that gig because I'd done all of these other podcasts. And then the next iteration from that is you go and do free stages. So never ever pay to be on a stage. Please pray me God, play me Jesus, please never pay to play. So many freaking conferences make people pay thousands and thousands of dollars to speak on their stage. Darling, they need you. You don't need them, okay? You do it for free or you get paid, but you definitely don't pay to be on a stage, right? So you need to come up with like 2 or 3 talks that you would want to do. So I have one on failure, one on personal branding for employers, and one on personal branding generally, like for sales and for founders and stuff. And they're like my go-to standalone, like plug in and play keynotes that I do all the time. I know them off the top of my head. I literally don't even need slides at this point, but I've done it so often that I know them, right? So I have these 3 talks that I do. So go and find some conferences or some stages that you want to be on and pitch them your talk and say, right, my expertise in this is why it's valuable to your audience. This is what I'm going to talk about. Can we have a conversation about me talking on your stage next month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it might be. You pitch yourself in and promise you'll get 1. And once you've got that 1, you bring a film crew. Yes, extra. I don't care who, like whatever. Bring a film crew. If you don't have a film crew, see if they're filming it. And you need to get film of you presenting that keynote, or of you being on that live panel, or of you being in that live speaking gig. And then what you're going to do is take that video that's been taken and you're going to chop it up into micro content and distribute it across all of your channels. And you're going to put in all your bios that you're a speaker. Because now what we're doing is we're telling the world and we're telling prospective other bookers that you do speaking gigs. And that's how I started to do my speaking gigs. And it's now also why I get paid an extortionate amount of money, reassuringly expensive, to go and speak on stages like at least once a month at this point, because I've done so much of it now that people want me on their stage, right? Because I've built up a credible background in talking about personal branding, but that's because I did all of the small stuff first. So That's how you get on stages. And also, like, just a side note on that, like how you price, I think is important. There is not enough visibility or transparency around what people charge for speaking gigs. Like, I know some people that charge like 1,500 quid. I know other people that charge 50,000 pounds to do a 1 hour speaking gig. I personally charge 5.5 for a 60-minute keynote. So I think it's really, really important that when you come to understand what you should be pricing, if it's your first speaking gigs that you're charging for, just punch for 1,500 quid. Just say $1,500, £1,500, whatever it might be, 1,500. And don't ask them what their budget is before you give them your price. Just say, my speaking fee is this. Do you have any budget? Like, what is your budget for this? What is your budget for this appearance when you're at the stage that you're ready to charge? And normally what happens is no one questions the fee because you say it with such chest that they go, yeah, okay, cool, it's 1,500 quid. And then 6 months later, you then increase it to 2. And then 6 months after that, you increase it to 2.5. And you can keep pushing that until you reach a ceiling where people start going, actually, sorry, we can't book you, you're too expensive. Right? But I think it's important that you are paid for your worth. Baby girl, baby boy, you need to be paid for your worth, right? You are a expert in your field. You know what the fuck you're talking about. Why on earth would you do anything for free once you've got the experience? Come on, let's be real. So punch for $1,500, £1,500, add a couple of hundred every couple of times, and then see what ceiling you hit. I promise you'd be surprised by how much money people are willing to pay, because guess what? They're not paying for your time. They're not paying for 60 minutes. They're paying for your knowledge, your story, your expertise, and the value that you provide. And trust me, your value is so much more than you think it is. Okay, so I've just started posting on TikTok and I keep getting really mean comments on my page. I want to keep posting, but they're making me feel like I should stop. What should I do? Okay, let me let you into a little secret. People that leave mean comments on other people's social media accounts are insecure. Okay. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with your content. It's all about them. It's about how they weren't hugged enough as a kid. They didn't get enough kisses. Their wife hates them. Their husband hates them. Like, whatever it might be, they hate their husband. It's not about you. Okay. It's about them. And I think this is the thing that we need to get into our heads. People spend so much time worrying about what strangers think about them online and worrying about what other people think about them. They don't care about you. Even if they're saying negative things to you, it's not about you, it's about them. Everything is a reflection of how we perceive ourselves. If you're kind to other people, it's because you love and respect yourself. If you're mean to other people, it's because you don't love and respect yourself. Got it? Stop allowing strangers to dictate what you should and should not be posting. You're never going to meet these people. They are literally sat in their spare bedroom in their underpants with Dorito dust in their belly button, leaving you nasty comments on TikTok. Do you respect that person? Would you take advice from that person? No. So stop accepting criticism from them. Keep posting your TikToks and send me your handle because I want to follow you. How long did it take for you to start seeing your followers increase? I've been posting for 2 months and I haven't made any traction. 6 years, guys. 6 years. I actually posted for 12 months before anyone gave a shit what I had to say. And I think this is the thing. People post for 90 days, 60 days, whatever it might be, don't get any traction and then just give up. Like, what is wrong with you? Have you ever been to the gym? It takes like 12 months before you get any proper results in the gym. You need to be on a diet for like 12 months before you lose any proper weight. It takes about 30 years to realize actually what it's like to be an adult and do it relatively well. And even then it's questionable. Things take time. The only thing that's going to actually make a difference in your life, your career, your success, your personal brand is discipline and time. You can't shortcut this shit. You could go and join a engagement pod like most people do. You can shortcut it that way, but it's not going to make you any money. And you'll get found out eventually as well. Like, people are getting cottoned onto this kind of stuff. I hate inauthentic content. I hate inauthentic people. And I think when you partake in that type of activity, it's like really inauthentic. So don't do that. Or you could. I mean, it's up to you. No judgment, but I don't want to do that. Just let it have time and make sure you're doing the right kind of feedback. Like, are you posting the right thing? Like, what did well? What didn't do well? And if you have no feedback whatsoever, why don't you DM people who are your ideal customer or ideal audience and ask them what they want to know and where they spend their time? Start building in private and then build in public. And yeah, good things take time, baby. Like, it takes you like 6 months of figuring out how to just crawl, right? Yeah, time and discipline. Well, thank you so much for listening to my solo podcast. I would love to know if you want me to do this again. I really enjoyed this, although this was kind of like a therapy session for me, so I probably would enjoy it. You probably didn't. But yeah, let me know if you like this format, if there's more things that you want to know about, and if you like the Q&A portion at the end. I love answering your questions. I think some of this stuff is like real stick in the mud for people, and actually I think I can unlock, hopefully, a lot of next steps for you, because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt in most walks of life at this point. So if you have any questions about personal branding, building a business, running an agency, running a business, divorce, confidence, all the things, drop us a DM to the Branded Podcast on Instagram, and yeah, would love to get those answered for you. Until next week, I will love you and leave you. I hope you have a gorgeous rest of your day, evening, night, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Branded by Amelia Sordell.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I absolutely love doing these podcasts, and I would be able to reach a hell of a lot more people if you like and subscribe. So thank you to all of you who have already liked and subscribed. And if you haven't, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so we can reach more people.